Well, welcome to the 700 Club, and thanks so much for joining with us. On Capitol Hill, a number of House Republicans are uniting against Islamic ideology that's spreading nationwide, and it's the spread of Sharia law.
Yes, and this has become a critical issue for one congressman. Texas Representative Keith Self spoke with CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Michelle London about the Sharia Free America Caucus.
North Texas has had like 20 mosques in the last 2 years.
Congressman Self draws a direct connection between a growing Muslim population in his home state to a gradual infiltration of Islamic control.
First of all, it would be simply, we want a community. Then the police can't come in. And the contracts, the covenants of the area say that you may buy if you're the right kind of person. You may sell to the right kind of person.
The Texas Republicans' crucial issue, the spread of Muslim Sharia law. Described as a framework of daily life for Muslims, Sharia is rooted in the Quran and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. It influences each aspect of a Muslim's life, from spiritual practices like prayer and fasting to daily activities such as business transactions.
Now is the time to educate our colleagues in Congress, our citizens, to the dangers of a totally separate and disparate civilization.
Self and fellow Texas Congressman Chip Roy are leading this effort through the Sharia Free America Caucus. They say the goal is protecting the U.S. Constitution and individual freedom from Sharia's influence. This would include legal initiatives such as a no Sharia legislation, which would deny immigration benefits to devoted followers. In just 1 month, the caucus membership has grown to 26 Republican lawmakers from 17 states, including Florida Representative Byron Donalds, who says Sharia has no place in America. We will not surrender our freedoms. Illinois Representative Mary Miller says she joined the caucus to, quote, stand firmly against the radical ideology that seeks to uproot the constitutional principles and Christian values on which our nation was founded. Self points to the Trump administration's recent move to designate 3 branches of the Muslim Brotherhood as terrorist organizations.
The Muslim Brotherhood as a whole is the genesis of all of this. They are the foundation of exporting Sharia to the United States and to Europe. I mean, look at the UK, look at France. That's what we don't want to happen to America.
Congressman Self adds that on the March primary ballot, Texas voters will see Proposition 10, which calls for the prohibition of Sharia law in the state. Meanwhile, the caucus has received criticism from groups like the Muslim Public Affairs Council, arguing it fuels Islamophobic rhetoric and targets American Muslims. Reporting on Capitol Hill, Michelle London, CBN News.
Well, I submit it's nothing Islamophobic about it. It's trying to preserve our basic liberty. Under Sharia law, you do not have freedom of religion. There is only one religion, and it's Islam. If you're not of Islam, you have to pay a tax if you're one of the religious minorities. That's what happens when they get into the majority. They tax the minority religions and say, we will tolerate you if you're a person of a book and you observe those rules. We'll tolerate you, but you have to pay a tax. There's no freedom of assembly. There's no freedom of speech. The blasphemy law takes over. And if you blaspheme the Prophet or the Quran, then you're subject to death. You are killed for it. At its basic core, it allows no freedom for women. No equal rights under the law. These are all incredible things that we need to wake up to, and I'm glad there's a caucus now on Capitol Hill aware of the danger and saying we're not going to go down that path. In other news, one day after the return of the last hostage, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is laying out his terms for the future of Gaza. Gary Lane has that story and more from the CBN newsroom. Gary?
Gordon, Netanyahu made it clear that Hamas must be disarmed before reconstruction begins in Gaza. He also warned Iran against attacking Israel. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl reports.
In an address to the nation, the Prime Minister detailed Israel's victories and his plans to respond to the challenges ahead.
Absolute victory rests on three things: the return of all our hostages, the dismantling of Hamas's weapons, and the demilitarization of Gaza. Only in this way will we ensure that Gaza no longer poses a threat to the state of Israel.
After the return of the last hostage, Ron Gvili, on Monday, Netanyahu says the focus is now on disarming Hamas and demilitarizing Gaza, and he drew some red lines.
I hear even now the statements that will allow the reconstruction of Gaza before demilitarization. That will not happen. I hear that we will bring Turkish soldiers and Qatari soldiers into Gaza. That will also not happen. I hear that we will allow the establishment of a Palestinian state in Gaza. That has not happened, and it will not happen.
He emphasized his government will not accept a Palestinian state.
Today and tomorrow, we will not allow it. Israel will maintain security control over the entire area, from the Jordan to the sea, and that is also true regarding the Gaza Strip.
He noted Israel's success in striking Iran and its proxies and warned against future attacks.
No, it's true. The Iranian axis is trying to recover, but we will not allow it to do so. If Iran makes the grave mistake and attacks Israel, we will respond with a force that Iran has yet to see.
The region is watching to see if President Trump takes military action against Iran after its brutal suppression of protests. In a speech last night, the president noted that an armada is headed in Iran's direction, and he hopes its leaders will make a deal. U.S. military leaders announced its forces will carry out a multi-day air exercise in the region to practice combat sorties safely and precisely alongside their partners. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
The Department of Homeland Security released an initial report on the killing of Alex Pretty. The report says 2 federal agents shot Pretty after an agent yelled he had a gun. The report does not say Pretty tried to reach for the weapon. There's a growing move among Republican and Democrat lawmakers to remove DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Last night, Minneapolis Democrat Representative Ilhan Omar made a call for Noem's removal when a man charged the podium and appeared to spray liquid at her.
Abolish ICE for good. And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
Trump sent border czar Tom Homan to Minneapolis to seek cooperation with state and local officials. The president suggested a plan to finish the immigration crackdown in a de-escalated form. The administration's immigration policies are tagged as one reason for a slowdown in America's population rate. According to numbers released by the Census Bureau Tuesday, the population grew by only 0.5% last year, the lowest since 2021. Another big reason for the slowdown, fewer Americans having babies. Charlene Aron reports on one group's plan to help reverse a nearly 20-year decline in America's birth rate.
In 1950, the number of married Americans stood at 66%, 2/3 of the country. A 2025 study by the renowned Barna Group finds that the number has dropped to 46%. And when it comes to family growth, the U.S. birth rate hit a record low in 2024.
More and more individuals delaying marriage if they get married at all, and even more striking, a massive decline in the number of babies being born. So typically the replacement rate should sit around 2.1 for a country to actually be replacing itself effectively. And yet in the United States today, that number has continued to decline year after year.
Emma Waters is a policy analyst at the Heritage Foundation and co-author of the study aimed at saving the family. Waters believes the only way forward for America is a society recommitting to the institution of marriage.
We should stop punishing married families in the United States through welfare penalties and other marriage penalties. We should start supporting the American family through a host of multifaceted approaches.
One would be financial, such as a $2,500 bonus for newly married couples.
This would be called the Nest Fund, or the Newlywed Early Starter Plan for American families. The second would be taking something similar to the adoption tax credit, which is about $17,000, and transferring that to all American families who are having children.
A proposal that comes as more young Americans lack interest in tying the knot. As of 2023, 67% of 12th graders expressed they would likely choose to get married someday, down from 80% in 1993. 24% don't know if they'll get married, up from 16%. To counter this trend, the Saving America, Saving the Family report encourages a marriage boot camp for struggling families.
What would it look like if we actually channeled all of our federal programs towards the singular message that marriage is good and that it's very hard, and we want to provide whatever resources we can to support you? The long-term impact of that is that you do see couples who would undergo this marriage boot camp having longer, healthier marriages, or maybe getting married in the first place where they hadn't before.
A uniform day of rest for American workers is also on the list, an idea that would build upon blue laws that limit alcohol sales in some states.
We recognize that one of the most important aspects of being human is not only working hard and working diligently, but having a day set apart where you can unplug from the regular grind of the work week and simply be present to rest, to be with your family, to worship if you're a religious person, and to really reconnect with yourself and with your values.
Waters hopes the federal government will seriously consider these recommendations as a way to refocus politics around saving and supporting the American family.
There is simply no greater good to invest in, and that should be our top priority.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Gordon, children and grandchildren are such a blessing, aren't they?
I can tell you it's one of the delights when I held my first grandchild in my arms. There was a sense of satisfaction that I've had a lot of experiences in life, but that was truly amazing. And they don't tell you this when you're in your 20s, that it's that longevity in relationship and in family that really leads to a life of happiness and a life of success. So, Andrew, why do you think there's such a low marriage rate and a low birth rate?
By the way, I'm looking forward to that grandfather stage.
You're not there yet.
A few years to go. No, we're not.
Yeah,
even
but
close.
you got your readers. I
do wear readers on occasion, but
you're on your way.
I have to think of my grandfather nickname, but I have a few years left for that. I'm glad people aren't rushing into marriage. You want to be discerning and wise. However, it's such a beautiful thing and can bring so much joy. It's a shame if younger people saw marriage modeled well, especially in Christian families. That's the difference maker. The government can do so much, but if people are seeing healthy, joyful marriages, even difficult marriages, but joyful and loving, that's the difference maker, right?
Well, I think it's the sheer cost of it is another factor. What's the cost of buying a home today? What's the cost of just, the basics of having a baby, diapers? When my grandchildren were born, I got hit on.
You got hit on?
Well, for money.
Okay.
It's not
right.
Not that way of hitting. Daddy Warbucks had to come to the fore. And it was sticker shock how much a stroller costs. I'm going, that's what my first car cost. Are you kidding me? That's what people are paying for this kind of thing. And then the car seats and everything else associated, and the cribs have all changed, and the crib that we raised our children in is no longer safe, and all of these things. And so you can't pass down anything. Everything has to be bought new. And the sticker shock was, wow.
Yeah, and especially car seats, et cetera. After a few years, they're not safe. So, yeah, you want to get new if you can, for sure.
So do you think the government getting involved and saying, we'll give you a $2,500 credit?
Yeah, incentives are good.
Well, I think it's good for the nation. If we don't have a replacement birth rate, what happens to America long term? We're seeing it in some other countries right now. China is having a real population problem, and I never thought in my life I'd say that. Japan has been having it for a long time, where the culture is not marrying and is not giving birth to new children. And that is going to cause their economy some incredible stresses over the next few decades. So do we want that here? No.
It is great to hear how much joy your grandchildren bring, though.
Oh, it's awesome.
That's what everybody
can you
says.
leave them with us, and then when the first diaper comes, I'm no good at that.
I forget.
Can't do that. I can, you'll have a blowout if I do it. You don't want that.
No, we don't want that.
You don't want a blowout.